Hello, and in today's video, we are going to be looking at a detailed comparison between any three options to any question you have. What does this mean? So if you're familiar with my previous videos where we did a yes or no comparison, basically there was a series of groups. You picked the group you felt drawn to with the question you had in mind, and we found out if it was a yes or no. Well, when we're figuring out what to do next or what to look forward to or choose or whatever, it's not always that simple. And to be honest with you, this is just something to consider when you're reading tarot for yourself, or if you're talking to your spirit guides, if you're familiar with going to the spirit realm and talking to them. Try to go beyond yeses and nos, because often you might get a yes and you're like, oh, okay, so it's a yes. But little do you know there is something deeper behind that you really wish you had known before you went forward with that. So we're definitely going into that, obviously. But in retrospect, one option might not necessarily be bad and vice versa the other, but we're just looking at the potential routes, what could happen, what's the vibe behind it, and we get to look at all the possibilities. So you really clearly get to be like, okay, well, with all of that information laid out, I choose this. You see what I'm saying here? And so what you're gonna do is we're gonna have these four groups in front of us, but in each group, there are three separate groups. And you are going to think of your three options, and you're going to assign it mentally to each group. Now you might say, what if I only have two options? I'm trying to decide between this and this. Make the third option be, what if I didn't choose either one of those options? That could be a version. You could pick something else, but that's just a brainstorming idea. And you're gonna pick wherever they're assigned. Remember, just like picking this group, you're also assigning the new groups that way. Then I'm gonna refer to option 1, 2, and 3. You're gonna have in mind, well, this was my option 1, this was my option 2, this was my option 3, whatever they may be. They don't have to be in a particular order. You choose what you feel fits. And then from there, we're going to go into what that exactly entails. And if we see anything popping up where there's like some sort of comparison situation going on, then we'll talk about that and how they interact. Because you never know. What if the option is both and it's a little bit of this, a little bit of that, or this benefits that, this benefits this? Just something to think about. Now, in addition to that, if you are interested in supporting me and getting exclusive content, I have a Patreon where I'm very excited to say I'm getting close to crossing over 200 videos. A lot of content over there. We really go far and wide into various subjects. People ask questions. I go into answering them, whether my own personal experience or I look up the information at the Akashic Records or communicate with my spirit guides. People share their own experiences. We go deeper into verifying and talking about it. There's psychic exercises, guided meditations. It is just a really fun, both informational, but a great place to go deeper into your consciousness understanding and just hanging out with like other people and vibing in that kind of way. I wanted to let you guys know that I always post new content over there every time I post a new tarot video, and I posted 5 new videos over there. So one of them is a really fun, quick, easy psychic exercise and talking about the importance of it. The second one is a much, much deeper extended version talking about cord cutting and talking about how does that relate to karmic contracts? Does that affect other people in their lifetimes or when it comes to learning lessons with each other, stuff like that. The third one is, this one was a really simple question. It was, why do other universes, yes, there are other universes, we actually talked about this on the Patreon. Why do other universes not have as many spirit guides as our universe? And this one started off as a very simple question, but it got so deep, it opened up so much more and really just is exactly why I have the content over there, which is one thing can branch off and create so much more, and you really see the value in asking questions, going deeper, gaining more knowledge. Love that. The fourth one is about a dream somebody's child had, and we go into what that exactly meant, what they experienced. It was very cool breaking that down and verifying that for them. And the fifth and final video is talking about the 5 signs that you share a past life with someone. And in addition to that, just talking about the idea of lessons transferring over, what should you do in order to remedy this or work with it to the best of your benefit, basically, for all parties involved. And that was a really fun, interesting bunch of references my spirit guides gave me. But in addition to that, if you were interested, all the stuff we talk about and exercise in these videos can be found in the courses and in the description below, where I have an intuition training course. You'll learn how to go to the spirit realm, you meet your spirit guides, but here's the important part. You learn how what you gain knowledge from and experience from the non-physical overlaps with the physical way more than we realize, and vice versa, and how much that can benefit you in your daily lives. I'm not kidding. I use it all the time. It's just my favorite thing. 2, I have a tarot training course. You can get right into reading tarot, not lose any of the details. Very straightforward, simple, but I go into all my tips and tricks I use over here. And 3, my brand new course, my meditation course. I'm telling you, it is such a vibe. It is not like anything you've experienced before. Meditation is a thinking person's practice. We go into all the conceptual and abstract ways to view our thoughts and go deeper into them, and talking about the value in tuning in rather than tuning out. Yes, you do gain byproducts of focusing and relaxation and stuff like that, but it's about exploring and going deeper and gaining benefits from that. That is really a foundation to everything else that I branch off of. It really was the thing that, those are the tools I come back to that makes me so good at spirit realm traveling, that makes me such a good tarot reader, and so on and so forth. Fantastic for problem solving, everything else in between. Love meditation. Anyways, just letting you guys know, as per usual, that's available. But let's get started with our 4 groups in front of us. I want you to think of, you're like, okay, I'm going to pick my 3 options. And you just think, I'm going to have these 3 options. You don't even have to get super specific. You just know you have these 3 options. You're going to hold that idea in your heart. And once you do, you're going to then pick the group 1, 2, 3, and 4 that resonates with you most. Oh, I'm going to give you a moment to do so. Now that you have, you can skip to your designated group, and it's marked timestamp in the description below. But remember, you're going to hear me repeat this several times. When you get to that group, I'm going to give you a second to pick the individual groups and put your options in place, so when we talk about it in detail, it makes sense. So let's get started with group number 1. Group number 1. Let's look at your 3 different options in greater detail by looking at the cards. Now we're going to do this a little differently than we normally do. We're going to lay out these cards. And before we go into greater detail about what they mean and compare them, I want you to take a moment to assign each group. You're going to hear me interchangeably say group or option. It's the same thing. And you're going to think, okay, these are my 3 concepts. I'm going to assign them to each group, however you want to, whatever resonates with you. I'm going to give you a minute to do that. I also highly recommend writing it down somewhere. So when I'm interchangeably going option 1, option 3, boo, 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 you know what's going on and you remember. You were like, what did I say option 3 was again? And you can remember. So I'm going to give you just a second to do that. Okay, you've got your options all laid out. Let's get started. We're going to lay out all the cards. So we got option number 1, we got 6 of Swords in reverse and King of Swords upright. Option number 2, we have the Star card and the 2 of Swords in reverse. Oh, interesting. We have the 7 of Cups in reverse. Oh, wow, really interesting. 4 of Wands upright. Okay, I can just tell you something right off the bat. I am gonna take a second to just look at some details and consult my spirit guides, but something I would notice, well, let me consult them first and then I will tell you what I noticed right away. Okay, perfect. Okay, so the thing I love about this is all 3 groups are actually quite similar in an outcome. There's overall a lot of happiness and positivity around all 3 options, like you can't go wrong. And there's a lot of similar notes talking, interestingly enough, about the concept of options. We're literally talking about options within options. And I think that's really fun because often people prefer in life and enjoy feeling like they have a choice. That when they went to go make that decision, it was the best possible decision out of many. But how many options you get and so on and so forth depends truly on each group. And there's just a subtle difference from each one. But right off the bat, I'm going to just say that they're all leaning in that direction of like, you're going to be happy either way. So first we got option number 1 over here. Now if you notice, we got a 6 of Swords in reverse. Fantastic. We're leaving a burden behind when we choose this group. We're finally moving on. We're letting go. We're moving to greener pastures. But we're specifically moving away. We can be really specific about what was previously slowing us down is the King of Swords. Now this is really interesting. My spirit guide specifically said this is representing the idea of feeling the need to be right. Often people get into this headspace when they feel like they don't have other people to depend on. Maybe they feel they need to protect that certain level of control because that is their voice. They want to be heard, and maybe they feel like it's such importance, it needs to be heard and validated and understood and connected to by others in order for them to be viewed in a certain way, like have a good reputation. People trust you know what you're talking about. People trust whatever knowledge you've gained and stuff like that. But overall, it's a sense of gripping a little too tight. It's almost like, I don't want to say without intuition. That's not necessarily a vibe I'm getting here, but it's like needing to say, I know what I'm talking about. That's important. It's like, okay, well, we do believe you know what you're talking about. Why is that so important to you? Now, there is an extended concept over here in this option where not only is there the giving up the need to be right, so there's this relaxation. It's like, you know what? Who cares? I finally can breathe. I don't really care if I mess up. Not that you will mess up. It's just the concept and worries behind, well, what if this goes wrong? Or what if this happens? Picking this option is sort of a release for you of just being like, you know what? It's all good. It's fine. It's all going to work out in the end. It's going to be okay. I'm the only one holding myself back with this perspective. But also, you're also leaving behind this grip, this need to work everything out so logically. Of course, when we're working things out, and whether this be our career or interacting with people, we're using our brain, we're thinking things through, we're deciding the pros and cons to stuff. But when we have a King of Swords, there's just a lack of letting things flow, definitely not connecting to your heart and emotions. You're really limiting your interaction with the world and yourself and whatever it is within this option to one perspective. And that doesn't feel the greatest. It's like you can feel an imbalance. Now, I'm not saying there is an imbalance. I'm saying that because when you choose this option, there is a sense of letting that go and letting there be that more flow, there be different ways that you go about solving things, interacting things, that being more of an option with this. There's just a great sense of exploring these other sides of yourself, feeling much more relaxed, not realizing how much that was kind of hanging out in the background of your brain. And like I said, pretty great option overall. Sense of release when you enjoy this. Now over here in option number 2, again, you're going to notice there's a very similar theme going on. You'll hear me repeat similar terms, but there are differences. Now over here again, Two of Swords in reverse. An option has been decided, very much like over here. In order to release that sense of burden that you were previously carrying and was slowing you down when the Six of Swords was upright, I'm happy to say it was reversed, you had to make a decision. But the thing that's so special about the Two of Swords in reverse, and it couldn't be more confirming, this is what I'm talking about when I talk about in my tarot course that there's confirming ideas. We're literally talking about options, and then in every group they talk about options. Oops, sorry. And then over here, these two cards just beautifully melt and mimic into each other. The Two of Swords in reverse talks about this idea of not only has a decision been being made, but there was like a fork in the road in your life, and now that this decision has been made, a new path has been forged. So this is really exciting because the Star card talks all about destiny, but I would say the Two of Swords almost sounds a little more intense and serious. Sometimes I feel like when people are choosing something, it can have a little bit of a fear element behind it because it feels so final, while this is more like you're just learning a little more about yourself. This is like going forward, that career is going to change, that romantic interest is going to change, that whole way of living life is going to change. With the Star card, this is so much more of a tender, comforting perspective to add to something, while positive is still kind of intense sounding. The Star card says you are totally on your path. You're going to feel it. You're going to be very self-aware of it. This is when people feel like, wow, everything's coming together. I know what I'm doing. I'm not guilty about it because I feel so good about it. And there's just a sense of being intertwined with your destiny in the universe. Very magical type of feeling. It's like when people discover a hobby that ends up becoming a full-time job and they realize how much they love it, and they previous in their life thought they had to go one way. And it's like, whoa, look at this. Also notice though, very similar concept of leaving the burden behind over here. Same concept. See her dropping off her glove and her fan? My spirit guide said this is her shedding the things that she no longer needs. Very similar to this concept. But again, this feels much more like it's implying like when you're choosing this option, something that was greatly a burden is released. This is more like you self-evaluating and being like, maybe I'm going to leave that a little bit behind, and I'm going to leave a little bit of that behind. And I don't mean as in you're going to have to give something up. It's more this concept where you realize a certain way of thinking just doesn't work for you anymore, and it's very relaxed, where previously you felt you had to express something so much, and suddenly you just feel like picking the other option doesn't feel like you're sacrificing a part of yourself. You can just choose another option. So there's some leaving some stuff behind. It's much more destiny filled. It's much more tender. I would say this is lovely and is a lot of again, letting go weight off your shoulders. But this feels more like dramatic change going forward in your path, in living a totally new life, and feeling very connected and being like, whoa, I'm supposed to do it, and really enjoying it. It's very much main character energy. So again, just slightly different, but a different vibe and just something to consider when you're choosing your options. And then we have option number 3 over here, which is the Seven of Cups in reverse interacting with the Four of Wands. Again, very similar vibes and notes that we have over here and over here. But I want to show you something that I think is a little kind of cute going on here. So we have this person really just vibing there's a party going on. Everyone's having a good time. It's talking about how in this option, it's like a safe space. You really are going to have a good time, lots of fun, feeling like you're making decisions out of feeling connected and passionate in the moment without it being your main focus all the time. Kind of like when you're at a party and you see someone, you just want to talk to them. You didn't think about it all, night. You just saw them and you vibed and you wanted to talk to them. That kind of concept. Well, in the front right here, we have 2 different people that this main individual is interacting with. And so she's like vibing. She is the moment. She has 2 options of people she could potentially be with. And so over here, 7 of Cups directly, again, like the 2 of Swords, talking about options, and with it being in reverse, also saying this concept of making decisions. But there's a difference here, because yes, she gets to make a decision of who she wants to be with, or maybe she wants, one of the options is she chooses to be with both. But over here, this is usually the Two of Swords is like this or this. Fork in the road. Are you going to stay on the same path? It might be varied, but it's the same path. Or we're going to do something totally different that's going to move us over here and put us in an entirely new trajectory we never thought of. It feels very much like future set. Over here, though, is more like I've got a lot of things that are great, and because I have way more options than I do over here in the Seven of Swords, I feel like whenever I'm making a decision, I'm making that decision because I have all these different, like I've really compared. A good version is when people get really into like makeup and they buy a bunch of different products. They really have that option to go, okay, if I say this is the best concealer, which by the way, feel free to put down your best concealer in the comments below. Who is not looking for the best concealer? If you put your best concealer down, you have your best concealer, you know that you tried all these other options out. It truly was the best option. So there's a sense of relaxation because you know not only do you like the way it looks, but you even had that comparison to look at these other things. This is more just like, okay, does this fit me best? Does this fit me best? This is like, I'm vibing, I'm hanging out. In this option, you're having fun because you feel like you are abundant, the life of the party. Everything's just flowing easily your way. A lot of things are flowing your way. You will ultimately make decisions, but every time you make that decision going forward, there's a sense of like, yep, it was the best party I could go to. I had all these different invites and this was the funnest option. I was going to wear a fun, cool outfit the next day. I've got this really cool wardrobe. This is the best option. So there you can see a progression in the options going on that I actually just noticed myself. All wonderful, but over here it's like, it almost feels like that first initial feeling and sensation of when people start to heal. They're like, okay, I'm just not as stressed as I was before. But that ultimately isn't where they want to end up. It's just the first sense of like, okay, I can breathe. But then we amplify it. It's like, yeah, but what if not only did you let things go and you feel a little better, you felt in tune. You felt aware that you were in tune. And maybe you just wanted it better than before. What if you had something totally different? So again, amped up version of this. But then this is like, what if we don't worry about destiny, we don't worry about this or that. We instead are totally out of that realm of thinking. We're so beyond that subject. Because again, let's say the option, just to give an example, is like, I'm trying to give something that's so non-partial it won't like put anyone in an uncomfortable place. Let's say you have plants and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm trying to take care of all these plants. Do I get this plant? Do I get that plant? Oh no. Over here, I know what plants I'm getting. I know how they can all be in a mutualistic relationship together. I know what I'm doing. I know how to interact with them. I know I'm even getting a greenhouse so I can extend my knowledge. I'm gonna garden from them. And then this is you out of that realm altogether, and you're just full on living in a bougie house. You got a gardener. You get to look at all the beautiful stuff. You don't have to think about it anymore. You get to enjoy the gardens, and it's like a fun thing, but your also mind wanders into other hobbies that might not be like the best example. I'm just trying to come up with one off the top of my head, but you get the progression. You're out of just the one realm of thinking. So this one's the most fun. Lots of, again, a sense of like abundance, choices, relaxation, really good headspace, but it is ultimately your choice what you feel is best. Now that you got a flavor of everything. So I'm actually also genuinely curious in the comments below. Please let me know, what choice did you end up, like say I love when you guys are like group blank and you like share what you thought. I love reading it. Feel free to say group, and then if you chose an option, what option did you choose ultimately from comparing them, and why did you choose that? I would love to know, because again, this is why I started this. Everyone's going to have their different reason why it's a better option, and there is no wrong answer. So I love that. Please let me know what you think in the comments below, like I just said. Leave this video a like, subscribe, hit that notification bell. It helps out like you would not believe. I am wishing you the best. I look forward to seeing the next one. And let's get ready for group number 2. Group number 2. Let's look at the comparison between the 3 different options you have by looking at the cards. Now, before we flip these cards over, I want you to think of the 3 different options you have, and I want you to pair them with each said group. You're going to hear me say interchangeably groups and options. So you're going to think of your three options, and you're going to place them with select cards. I do recommend writing it down, but if you haven't memorized, you're all good. That way, when I bop around and I say option 1, option 2, option 3, and I'm comparing them, you know what that entails specifically for your situation. So I'm going to give you a moment to put the options with the comparable groups you feel drawn to, and then we'll get into this. Okay, so let's flip over the cards and see what we got. For option 1, we have the Ace of Cups upright and the Hangman in reverse. Option 2, we have the World card upright and the Temperance card in reverse. For group number 3, I'm gonna have to look into that. We have the Nine of Swords in reverse and another Ace of Cups. We love this. Okay, so just give me one moment to look at the details of everything and also consult my spirit guides. I'll be with you in one moment. Okay, so I'm glad I looked into these because they are slightly different, if not similar. But what is next to them is also important because, again, we're looking over these 3 options so you can say, that's more my flavor. That's more what the direction I'd like to go in, because the slight differences are important here. So first, let's start off with this first group, or option number 1. We've got the Ace of Cups and the Hangman in reverse. Now, this talks about new emotional support systems specifically. This is what my spirit guide said. So in some circumstances, this can mean a new person in your life, romantic and friendship, right? Either or, I was told. Or maybe you have like a new group of people in your life that build you up in this kind of way. But there's something important to talk about when we have this card next to it. When we have this card in reverse, it talks about this idea where you were coming from. Things weren't quite lining up. It felt like the timing was off. Often it can feel like when people are in this position, they're sitting on the sidelines of their own life. Sometimes this feels really daunting and negative for people because they want to get a move on. For other people, it's more like a neutral place where they know nothing special is happening, but they're kind of okay with it because maybe on some subconscious level you need a break. But this card is also a positive thing because sometimes when things don't work out, it can feel frustrating to hear like that's just the answer, or you weren't in the right headspace to receive it, or you weren't ready at that point with your skill levels or your energy, your experience, because sometimes that's just the way it is and you give yourself a little more time and then you get back at it. This talks about the idea of like being like it's a timing thing, and you're going to be really happy that it's not meant to happen now, happen another time period. But this talks about this idea of this is where it starts, and this is what's branching you off of this headspace. So you end up gaining, when you go down this route with this option, you end up gaining this new emotional support system, and this really varies, again, like we talked about. But the main thing to take away from it is that. And this is the branching off period where it's not as definitive as like the Chariot, where it ultimately says, yep, victory, you're on the right path, you move forward, the next step, you do move forward. You do feel like you're gaining momentum, but the main initial focus after making this decision when we talk about this option is that you gain this a support system that puts you in a headspace that starts moving you forward. Because not for not everyone, it's just as simple as taking the next step. Sometimes you need to like figure some stuff out. You want to move forward while simultaneously healing the past and understanding why things were the way they were, gaining a better sense of foundation. And foundation sometimes looks like the way our life is organized. Sometimes it looks like the emotional state we're in, things like that. So there is a sense of momentum, and it's really, when we're gaining this type of thing, it's a lot of like love and connection, and it feels really good. Sometimes this is the thing people are striving for in their life and they don't even know it. It's very fulfilling, very much in this direction, and it's great. It's moving you forward. But I want to be clear here that while you're moving forward, it's not an immediate step and a jump and you're like, yep, totally, perfectly, next step. You need this sort of bridge, but this bridge has momentum moving you forward, which is really nice. So you're getting out of that timing place. You're in a better place to have things work for you. The timing is now aligning, and you have something that's supporting you and building you up into something that will enable you to be able to handle it. So this is definitely that type of thing that you didn't know you need type of situation. So that's option number one. In option number two, though, this explicitly talks about the idea of travel being a thing. And I was like verifying. I was like, are you sure? It doesn't mean anything else? And they were like, nope, it specifically means traveling. However, with this option involving the idea of traveling a lot, it does bring up the Temperance card in reverse, which isn't necessarily negative, but it is something to keep in mind. It's a bit of a roller coaster, interestingly enough. It doesn't talk about emotions, but I would argue when you have a Temperance card in reverse, it can make you feel that way. So what I mean by this is sometimes with all this travel, you're going to feel like all your needs are fulfilled. You're going to be excited, new things, new connections, spontaneous core memories being built. It's going to be a good time. But then there's going to be times where you feel like when you're traveling, you just didn't get a chance to get a break, or maybe you miss your favorite type of shampoo or something like that. There's tons of beauty products or things that we don't realize we find comforting in some way. Maybe a favorite convenience store that just now not in this part of the world that you're in. So there's going to be times when you feel like you're literally riding this great feeling. You're feeling the utmost best, excited life, anything's possible. And then there's going to be moments when you're like, I just need a break. I'm very appreciative of my life, but I miss some things I'm familiar with. So not necessarily bad. It's just something to keep in mind. And to be honest with you, just some food for thought, because when it comes to tarot, we look into these things in order to change things, work to our favor. If you did choose this, I would highly recommend figuring out, what do you need to feel consistent? You could make like a little bag of things that you're familiar with, whether that be with some pictures or some little goodies or something like that. And whenever you're having that moment where you need a break, you can come back to your little sort of homesick bag, you could even call it. Or maybe you just need a day to decompress and have like a nice little breakfast by yourself or something like that, or whatever gives you comfort. Go for a nice walk in nature or something like that. So easy remedy situation, but something to keep in mind going forward with this, so that you can enjoy all of this travel to the best of its, to the most funnest extent. And then group number 3. Now you'll notice there's actually quite a lot of similarities between these two, but they are different. So if you do feel that either one of these are appealing when it comes to your option choosing, you're understanding where it's starting and going. So in the 9 of Swords in reverse, this explicitly talks about the idea of feeling like a relief in stress. Again, we have that concept of, I just realized that sense of tension comes up in each one. And this one, there is a sense of coming out of that headspace and having an answer for it, which is really nice. Over here, it's more of a sense of like think of like a release, like the weight being lifted off your shoulders, like, like I can breathe again type of concept, which I'm not saying you don't feel it here, but it is a different sense of relaxation from a more tense place. And then over here, it talks about how this can create a little tension in your life, but we had an easy solution to that. And that doesn't mean you shouldn't still go for it. Again, we talked about how it can feel really good at certain points. We just want to find some sort of comfort when you just need that extra support when it feels like the opposite. But then over here, we have the Ace of Cups, which again talks about emotional connection, but this is different. This one was about support and you finding it through these new people. It could be a romantic relationship, whatever. This only talks about a new relationship. I did ask if that was, again, romantic or friendship, and I was told that it was both, as in some cases, it is this new, again, romantic partner in your life. For some, it's friendship. But something interesting here is my spirit guide said that there is sort of like an overlap. So in this case, you feel like you're really close friends with them as well. And then in this case, while you are friends, there are moments where it's either you feel little romantic feelings towards them, or they treat you so well that when you go to look for future partners, you comparably are like, this is how I would like to be treated, even though it's friendship. Because, I'm actually really curious what you guys think in the comments below, but this is something that I think is kind of underrated when it comes to living life. Again, you don't feel those feelings for our friends, but they are like, whether it be someone you want to spend your life with in this way or that way, there is still a very high level of overlap in how you treat each other with respect, caring for one another, holding space for one another, that type of thing. So it makes sense that if you see things and connections you like with someone, it doesn't mean you feel that way for them, but it on some level is like teaching you like, yeah, I do want that going forward. And you're in a better space to sort of ask, naturally seek it, naturally find it, naturally receive it from somebody else in the future that you do want more of that type of connection with. So again, there's a lot of options here with this general reading, but either way, there is this, it's specifically a person, and you're building this type of really wonderful connection, and whichever direction it goes for whatever you need, there is a sense of like, like I can breathe again, I feel more relaxed. It really is interesting here because all of these groups talk about not only feeling more relaxed and calmer and showing the place where you were leaving and where you're going to go, but it also talks about this idea of broadening your horizons through connections. Because while this doesn't talk explicitly about another person, you would meet other people traveling. You would have wonderful experiences. It's like sometimes when we go out in the world and we learn that we can build such a wonderful connection with someone instantly in one night, it makes us view the world in a more loving, connected way, and it helps change our viewpoints often. And that very much is happening in each one, which I love for you. But the question here is, one, do you want to travel? That's just a very point blank one. Maybe you're not ready at this moment for a more tied down situation. Not that I would consider it that, but I'm just saying you are more attached to someone, making your plans around it. You wouldn't be free for all traveling as much as this situation. Then over here, hold on, I think my spirit guide's interrupting me. Oh, no, they're not. Okay, good. Okay, never mind, keep going. But then over here, it's asking yourself, do you feel like before you move forward, maybe you need more of a better, again, foundation? And this is kind of, you'd like to explore this more and get a deeper sense of understanding that in the long term is going to really benefit you and truly help you move forward with all of that understood and healed? Or do you feel like you just need that someone else to get you? And it's not so much purely about the support, but about the memory building. Often I would compare this to like, sometimes it truly is the answer when we're trying to get into a better place in our life to literally enter a new life. Like you get a new job, you move to a different place in the world, and suddenly you're not around the same people you were before, or you're kind of your day-to-day life is dramatically different. And often that can be a solution for a lot of people. Like they just weren't in a great position before, they weren't in a great community before, that put them into a better headspace or allowed them to really try new things and be a new version of themselves type of scenario. That's kind of the vibe and flair I have over here, where it's like, you're getting this new connection and you're both getting a sense of like, somebody gets me, and it feels supportive. However, it's more about like core memory building with them and focusing on the new and the present. But I would say all of these have value. And that really just more comes from the position of like, what do you want to do going forward? What feels best to you? What's the better scenario of what you want to get? And that's something that you can just like ask yourself within and being like, right now, what do I need? But also, what do I need in the long term? And what in how would that all work together best? I also even highly recommend even pulling some more tarot cards for yourself. And looking into that a little more for yourself, because I personally think these are all great options, but they are something to kind of deliberate? Yeah, over before you go in, before you make the final decision. So please let me know what you think in the comments below. I would love to know. And leave a like and subscribe and hit that notification bell. It helps out like you would not believe. I am wishing you the best. I look forward to seeing you in the next one. And let's get ready for group number 3. Group number 3. Let's look at comparing your 3 different options by looking at the cards. Now, what we're gonna do is I'm gonna lay the cards out like this first, and you're going to assign each group or option. You're gonna hear me use those words interchangeably. Where do your options lie amongst these 3 different groups? And with these 3 different groups, you're gonna either write it down so you don't forget, or you're gonna memorize it. And then when I flip the cards over and we start talking about them, you will better be able to be like, that was option number 3 for me. That's what it meant. That's where I'm going. You know what I mean? So that way you don't forget. So I'm going to give you just a moment to do that. Okay, and now let's get started. So we have in option or group number 1, the Moon card in reverse. Oh, I love this one. And the 3 of Pentacles upright. I really like that. We have the Empress upright and Judgment in reverse. These 2 actually feel like there's something similar here, which is really interesting because I'm seeing that pop up a lot today in today's reading. And then our 3rd option or group is Queen of Wands in reverse and the 6 of Swords upright. Okay, give me just one moment to look at the details of everything and consult my spirit guides, and I'll be with you in one moment. Okay, let's get into this one. So first we have option number 1 over here. Now this talks about that as you step into this option, there is going to be a difficulty connecting to your intuition. It's going to be off for a period of time. But there's a benefit here. It's sort of like, how can I express this? Okay, so when we are living life, things pop up to give us opportunities to grow, understand, learn. So sometimes people confuse it for they did something wrong, they did something bad, and little do they know they are actually becoming a better version of themselves. They're understanding something because something else is happening. Keep this in mind as we go forward, that you can always change that. You can always say, this isn't the way I'd like to learn. You can change that scenario, change how you interact with the universe and the world, but we're addressing it because if you then see that, understand that, and you go, I didn't like this. I want to not have this happen this way anymore. You can state this to the universe. You can change your attitude towards it if you're aware of it. So if you're aware of it, you can change it. So we're discussing it so that you can have it work out to your advantage however you want it to be. But I wouldn't necessarily say that this is bad. Again, it's your choice going forward what you want to do. But we're understanding of why this is happening. You didn't like make a choice and then it was the wrong one, good and bad. It doesn't really work like that. So when you go forward in this option, your intuition's initially disconnected and you're not really able to make with the utmost confidence and see results of it, of being like, yeah, this is what I should do next. And then this, and then, yeah, I'm feeling like I'm in the right place, right time, that type of thing. But the beautiful thing is you actually gain a really wonderful, I guess you could say support system, specifically in the Three of Pentacles. So this can be anything from, it's very skill and logic based. So this can be coworkers, people you're working on with a project, this can be friends, but it's a few people, right? I'm being told 1 to 3 people from my spirit guide. So what's happening here that my spirit guide was telling me about previously was that while you don't have the reliability of your intuition in that moment, you get taught that there is other ways to navigate the world through logic. Because yes, fun part is, as much as I promote and talk on here, connecting to your intuition, your psychic abilities, stuff like that, there is actually quite a logical side to navigating the spirit realm, I'm really happy to say. Things just make sense and do have like a place and meaning and connection and stuff like that. And this is very much navigating it. So think of them as you're working on this project. I'm just using this as an example, keep that in mind. But you're working on some sort of project, and normally, you know, this person is putting together this mural. They would depend on their intuition to naturally say, this is artistically where I feel the mural should go. But your friends over here would have experience, understanding. They would say to you, well, yes, but if you create it this way, in the long term, the structure wouldn't be good. Or someone else would say, hey, if, you know, people really like to see hidden meanings in a mural, they really would find that, give it more value to it. Maybe you should consider making something that is both a design and simultaneously has a hidden meaning in it. And they would give you these great tips and examples from their own experiences, and what they're saying just makes sense. That gives you the support going forward to make some choices, so that when you gain your intuition back, you have both the benefit of your intuition and navigating things on a logical level and intertwining those two. So it's a bit of uncomfortability going forward in this path, but is it? Because you're going to actually gain a lot of knowledge. It won't feel uncomfortable because they will teach you a different thing that you can rely on. They're going to teach you a lot of tips and tricks, a lot of connecting, good times. There's friendship here. It's a really awesome, wonderful path, but that's just something to keep in mind. Now, group number 2 is interesting because it has similarities, like I thought, to group number 1, but you're going to notice it's quite different. So in the Empress card upright, this specifically talks about the idea of someone wanting to care for you, this nurturing, this support, very much like we talked about over here. There is resistance, though, on your end, right? Let me just check my spirit guide. Yeah, okay, exactly. I was so told. So this is you initially being like, I don't want it. I don't need it. Let me just verify one more thing with my spirit guide. Okay, so in some cases, it's because you don't really like the person and you're like, I don't want your help. And in other cases, for the most part, it's this like wanting you wanting to not appear vulnerable, not wanting to, not like you're just like, I don't want to, nope, I got it. I can do it all by myself. I don't want to be someone who needs help, that type of thing. Now, the beautiful thing is when you move forward this path, while there is resistance on your end, whether these two different options I just gave, you do end up still receiving the help. So that's lovely. That's wonderful. However, you'll notice a similarity, but a difference here. In the Judgment card, this specifically talks about an ignoring of a call to action. My spirit guide said that this would be like sort of a test from the universe is the best way I can put it. Again, we talked about that a little bit over here. And These things that happen enable us to better understand ourselves, understand how the universe works, whatever that may be. In this particular case, this is your moment to really shine. Like, you're given an opportunity. This is your test from the universe to really shine and show how great you are. It would be like being given an opportunity to be the lead in a big project and everyone to see how great your skills are and you to really shine and everyone be like, wow, look how amazing they are, be the center of attention, that type of thing. And when you go down this option, you do end up getting it and then ignoring it and not wanting it, basically denying this opportunity for yourself. Keep in mind, we're talking about tarot, so this is just a moment now. This is not forever. This is just one moment. So it's like you get support, but that support has a bit of pushback on your end. And then in addition to that, in the process of you resisting and dealing with that support, you ultimately, whatever that decision is, you feel uncomfortable, it's not the right time for you, whatever reason why, you decide to ignore this opportunity. So something to consider. Now, group number 3, in my opinion, is the worst option. You choose what you want, but I don't really think what I'm about to describe to you is really that great. Ultimately, it talks about this idea of a specific, is it a woman or is it more flexible? Okay, my spirit guide said very flexible. Okay, so we're not specifically talking about only a woman, but they're not great. My spirit guide said they would make your life terrible. Think of the worst comparison. They are just gonna be up in your business, annoying. A lot of it's coming from jealousy, possessiveness. It's not a great situation going forward with this. And in the Six of Swords, while it is a positive thing saying that ultimately this is not forever, you will push past this person, when we have a Six of Swords situation, it's this idea where it says, hey, it's going to get better, but there's something holding you back, slowing you down. This is slowing you down. So, like I said, you are welcome to choose option 3, but option 3 just straight up says it's going to not be great on many levels. It's not going to be that way forever, but it's going to really slow you down. You're going to be dealing with the recovery and the annoyance of this scenario, and you don't necessarily want that. So ultimately, these are your 3 options. I want to be clear, you choose whatever works for you, because maybe now is not the right time for you to select an option and you need someone just more purely caring for you. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. Sometimes we just need to be coddled and someone to be there and let us know we're not alone, and we need that, and we're not at a good place to be the center of attention. Maybe you don't feel confident in your skills, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. Keep in mind, it was an opportunity. Opportunities always come again. But over here, while you might feel a little off initially, you're actually gaining something that will make you feel like you know what you're doing better, and you're gaining an invaluable skill in the long run. And it has a lot more fun and friendship and creativity and that type of stuff going forward. So you make your decisions that you feel you like. Please let me know what you chose out of this group options below, whatever option down below. I'd love to hear it. And yeah, please leave on this video a like, comment, subscribe, hit that notification bell. I am wishing you the best. I look forward to seeing you in the next one. And let's get ready for our final group. Group number 4. Group number 4. Let's look at the detailed comparison between your 3 different options by looking at the cards. Now, before I flip these over, I want you to assign each group or option, I'm going to interchangeably say these same things, for which one aligns with which 3 of your options. And then I highly recommend writing it down so you don't forget. And then when you do, I can then flip over all the cards, we can talk about it, but as I'm going, hey, option 3, option 2, option 1, bouncing around, it will make better sense of what you're comparing it to. So I'm going to give you a moment to assign each group or option with yours, and we'll come back to this. Okay, now that you've done so, let's flip over the cards. In group number 1, we have 5 of Cups in reverse. Oh, in the Strength card. I love that. Group number 3, we have the Queen of Pentacles upright and the Lovers card in reverse. And then option number 3, we have the 6 of Cups upright and the 3 of Cups in reverse. Okay, I'm going to give you one moment, or I'm going to not give you, I'm going to take one moment to look at everything, look at the details, and to consult my spirit guides. But just give me one moment to do so. Okay, let's get started. So first, let's start with option number 1. It's really beautiful. It talks about this idea of finally getting over and letting go of grief as you simultaneously step into your strength. Now, I want you to pay attention to this. This is a very positive thing, but this is something you want to think about going forward in this option. This is, by the way, this is not a negative thing. This is not a warning I'm about to say, but I am just trying to paint you a picture. Sometimes when we are given opportunities to step into our strength, we need to stand up for ourselves. Maybe it's a moment where there seems like there needs to be a lot to get done and you're like, I got this. Maybe it's a moment where you're just given an opportunity to express this part of yourself and you're just showing that you can do anything, that you're not just, sometimes we are lost in our grief. We feel unable to move forward, unable to think. Sometimes we're just not in the best place to interact or believe that we can exhibit confidence and get something accomplished or done or whatever. So this is not only like a beautiful scenario where we're letting go of what held us back and we're stepping into our empowerment, but keep in mind that does come with proactive work. Opportunities that you will then live out. You will then see the result of that, really feel yourself stepping into your strength, believing yourself that you're exhibiting this. So keep that in mind. It is a proactive role. It is talking about that you will do it and you're going to be really happy with the results, but understand it will be an emotional thing in a positive way and a relief way, because sometimes when we let go of that, we take a moment to cry because that was intense what we went through. And there's just a feeling of like, I'm ready to move on now. But I'm not only ready to move on, I'm ready to take that next big leap and step forward into the best version of myself. I also love that strength is being exhibited very directly in this kind of way, because sometimes this card talks about this idea of like an inner beast, a part of yourself you're wrestling with. And this has nothing to do with that. This is only you feeling confident and like you can depend on yourself. But remember, as you make this choice, going forward, it will present with opportunities. You're going to seek these opportunities out. You're going to take advantage of them, and you're going to really prove to yourself something that will not only make yourself feel better, but also help relieve something else. So pretty awesome in option number 1. Now, option number 2 is great, but there is something to consider here. It specifically talks about another person, and it talks about, my spirit guide was like going into detail saying like how knowledgeable they are, that they have all this stuff that they're going to share with you. The Queen of Pentacles tends to be someone who's like very experienced in their craft, artisan, whatever their field of their career is. And this is somebody who's going to share that with you, and you're going to really gain a lot of benefit from it. The energy from it is super wondrous. Like there's this excitement from you being able to be handed all these little secrets of the trade and know all these things and really be able to, you can trust who's giving it to you. But while you're moving forward in knowledge and someone helping guide you there and it being like a really positive experience in that kind of way, there is a disconnect when it comes to romantic encounters. I asked if you're with somebody or if you're single, and I was told both. As in, you'll meet someone and you just don't have time for them, it doesn't work out, or there's some sort of disconnection in some kind of way, it just can't happen. And if you're with someone, you're just really not getting to like spend time with them. Maybe they even disagree with you about whatever you're doing. I'm not saying it on like a very intense extent. It's not very serious. Let me just check how serious it is. Yeah, my spirit guide said not very serious at all. I did triple check if this meant severance, as in especially for people who are already with someone right now, like does that mean a breakup? And I was told no, it's just a temporary disconnect. But this does go on the sidelines more and isn't a main priority and isn't the main sort of fuel in your life while you're simultaneously gaining all this like knowledge and creativity and excitement of something new and gaining and learning in this kind of way. So it's sort of that, is that cool with you or not? Because remember, this is going to look different for everyone. You could just be honest with your partner or yourself and say, you know what, I'm just putting my attention somewhere else temporarily right now. Love you, but I'm just not going to be as available. That's okay. We can remedy this and then make time for each other more, or understand and compartmentalize that this is just a temporary time period where I'm focusing somewhere else. And that way it won't feel so much like disconnection, just a different focus temporarily before you kind of get more of time to have that balance between different things in your life. So keep in mind, things can always change, be altered, be benefited, and you can work with it rather than against it. And if you guide things in that kind of way, or even if, let's say there's another person, so let's say you're single and you're trying to connect with someone, you could just be like, hey, would you be willing to like, I'm really busy right now, we can like, text or something. Would you be willing to do that? And we'll meet up when we can, but I'm being really honest about where I'm at. And maybe we can reconnect deeper another time period. If you are like in that communication space with, depending on whatever situation you're in, whether it be a long-term relationship or something you were trying to start, it'll be fine. You'll be able to be a better communicator. You can smooth things out for the time being. And then you get to have the benefit of feeling not disconnected and getting to gain all this knowledge and everything like that. So there is a solution here, but just keep that in mind. That is something you want to focus on in order to make it feel like a smoother process. Now, group number 3, though, is different. In the Six of Cups, my spirit guide specifically referred to this idea of something of the past coming up. And I asked if this referred to like your childhood, and I was told no, just like the past. So for some people it's, a year. For some people it's 5, it's something like that. I asked if it had to do with a certain person or people in your life, and I was told in some cases, mostly it's like a concept, an idea, something of the past popping up again that you're exploring and reliving. It doesn't really feel like you're reliving it. How do I say this? It's almost like you didn't fully understand the idea when you experienced it at the previous point, and it's almost like popping up again so you can like fully understand it, comprehend it, to let go and move on from it. A good example, or gain value from it. A good example would be like, let's say in the past you really never mastered the idea of saying no, and the people that kind of put pressure on your life to say yes to everything eventually they left. They weren't in your life anymore, but you never really like learned that. And then eventually you end up being in a position where when they do, you have those people, that type of people and community in your life again, you're finally getting to be like, okay, I'm going to have to say no. I'm going to have to learn how to say it. I'm going to have to practice saying it. Do you see what I mean? Like you're coming back to the idea and you're in a better place to be able to express it and exhibit these things or learn from them. So it's not necessarily like an uncomfortable thing. It's just an understanding thing. But I will say, though, we have a 3 of Cups situation. I did ask if the 3 of Cups, these people in the 3 of Cups, were related to the 6 of Cups. I was told, like, a little bit, as in, like, let me just double check. Okay, my spirit guide said, yes, it can involve people from the past, but that's not really a guarantee. It is intertwined, but it's not necessarily about people from your past popping up. So what do we mean by the 3 of Cups in reverse situation? Now, this does explicitly talk about how when you go down this option, it's going to be a lot of like partying and fun, a lot of going out, that type of thing. However, these are pretty flaky individuals. These are not sincere friendships. These are the type of people that wouldn't really have your back, when they get bored after 6 or 8 months, no longer in your life anymore, which is not necessarily like the worst thing in the world, because sometimes we just have those friend groups, we enjoy them, and then we move on. That, you know what I mean? It's just the way life flows sometimes. But keep that in mind, that as they're popping up, again, we're using the example like you couldn't say no before and now you're saying no. Them popping up might put you in a position where they're not the same people from the past, but they're saying, hey, do this for me, do that for me, and you're gonna have to then go explore this option and say, no, I'm setting a boundary. No, I don't wanna do that. No, you're not asking a lot, you're asking too much of me, that type of thing. So, again, not necessarily a bad thing, because eventually you're going to want to face this and deal with it. And I'm happy to say you're going to have fun along the way, which is cool. But these are your 3 options. We have you having opportunities, stepping into your strength, feeling that strength while simultaneously letting go of some grief. Over here, we have you gaining knowledge, but being aware that sometimes when we're focusing on one thing, we don't have time for another, but there is a way to solve and make that smoother and more comfortable for all parties involved. And then over here, we have you finally overcoming, or I don't want to say overcoming, exploring and going deeper into something from your past and being able, Sorry, I thought I was hearing noise. We're good now. Okay, let's keep going. Being able to explore that and be better at wielding those skills into the future. So there really is a lot of benefit to each one. It's more like, what do you want to gain out of it? And we went over how you can best utilize it and have the best experience out of each one, because each one does come with, I don't want to say like a well, but this type of scenario, or like, a bump in the road, but something to keep in mind. This is very proactive, this is very proactive, and this is very proactive. Either way, you are stepping into options in your life that involves you getting involved. And you're going to do great at it, and you're going to do wonderful, and you're going to gain knowledge and understanding, and you're just going to grow and be an even better person. So you can't lose. These are all 3 pretty great options. So I'm genuinely curious to know in the comments below what option you are choosing to do when it comes to that. And please leave this video a like I said, a comment, subscribe, hit that notification bell. It helps out the channel like you would not believe. I look forward to seeing you in the next one, and goodbye.